Good day, everyone. Welcome to another lecture on question answers and why. And for today, our subject is soil science. So I have here 5 questions, and let's start off with question number 1. Question number 1 says that these are chemical elements taken up by plants in large quantities. Is that essential elements, macronutrients, trace elements, or micronutrients? So ano daw ba yung mga chemical elements or let's say nutrients na kailangan ng halaman sa mas malaking halaga? So they need it in bulk or more. So alam natin, ang sagot dito is letter B, macronutrients, because of the term macro. But essentially, we have Basically, we have two essential elements. We have two divisions of essential elements composed of macronutrients and micronutrients. Ano nga ba itong mga to? So, sa macronutrients, it can be divided into two as well. We have non-minerals and minerals. So, ano yung mga organic or non-mineral macronutrients? We have our CHO, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Kailangan niya ng halaman in large quantities. We also have primary macronutrients, which is our NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then meron din tayong secondary or tertiary macronutrients such as our calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Sa micronutrients, all of the micronutrients are mineral based, so wala tayong organic na micronutrients. Ang ating primary micronutrients includes boron, chlorine, manganese, iron, zinc, copper, nickel, and molybdenum. Meron din tayong like secondary or tertiary micronutrients such as our cobalt, sodium, vanadium, selenium, silicon, and aluminum. So yan yung mga nutrients na kailangan ng halaman, both macro and micro, para maayos yung kanilang metabolic processes. So again, essential elements ang tawag mo sa macronutrients and micronutrients. Sir, ano po itong trace elements na to? Trace elements is another term for your micronutrients. With the word trace, ibig sabihin, it's only in trace amount, konting amount lang yung element na yan doon sa halaman. Second question, what are the mechanics of soil erosion? Is it letter A, detachment of soil particles? Letter B, transport of soil particles? Letter C, deposition of particles, or letter D, all of the above. So ano ba yung tinatanong sa question na yan? Our keyword here is mechanics. What are some synonyms of mechanics that you can think of? Mechanics can include the process. Tama? So ang tinatanong dyan, ano yung process of soil erosion? So meron kang step 1, step 2, step 3, most probably, right? Because we're talking of process, we're talking of a method. So I will give you a simple illustration on the process or mechanics of soil erosion. So how does soil erosion, how is soil erosion being done? Okay? Ano yung scenario niya? Yung 3-step scenario niya? Well, let's start off with an example. Sabihin natin na nagkaroon ng ulan na malakas. So yung raindrops na to tatama sa lupa. And what happens kapag tumama yan sa lupa? Yung lupa na detach, right? So that's stage 1. There is detachment. Now after detachment, yung mga na-detach na particles ng lupa is now being transported either by wind or probably also by the water itself. So that's stage number 2 of the soil erosion process. So that's transportation. Or maybe, or you can also term it as translocation. Pwede rin. And if these soil particles traveled, if these soil particles traveled, they will move to another site or to another area kung saan magse-settle ulit sila. And that's the third stage of the mechanics of soil erosion, namely as deposition. So given the choices that we have in question number 2, the correct answer now is letter D, all of the above. So ano yung first step ulit sa process or mechanics of soil erosion? Detachment. Okay, maaalis yung lupa because of some factor, most probably raindrop. And then yung mga soil particles na to, they will be transported or translocated to another site. And to that another site, itong mga soil particles na to will be deposited. Doon ulit sila magse-settle. So that is how soil erosion works. Let's go with question number 3. Question number 3 says, a well-drained soil subject to excessive leaching of the basic cations are acidic and are defined with PS, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and molybdenum. While lowland rice soils that are poorly drained and waterlogged are deficient with these elements. I think the word here is not defined but deficient. Deficient to. So deficient. Yan. Para hindi tayo malito. So sinasabi niya sa question na to, yung mga soil na well-drained, kung saan kapag diniligan mo, magde-drain yung tubig agad-agad, they are prone to leaching. So yung mga basic cations na nalileach dito that becomes deficient, kulang doon sa soil, includes phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and molybdenum. Ngayon, sabi niya, kung ito yung mga kulang sa well-drained soils, ano rin kaya yung mga kulang daw sa lowland rice soils? Okay, ano ba kasi ang characteristics ng lowland rice soils? They are poorly drained, di ba? They are waterlogged. Nag-i-stay yung tubig dyan, hindi basta-basta bumababa yung tubig sa lupa sa mga rice soils, right? And they are waterlogged, so flooded. Deficient sila sa anong mga elements kaya or sa anong mga nutrients. Would that be letter A, nitrogen and potassium? Letter B, zinc and sulfur? Letter C, zinc and calcium? Letter D, calcium and magnesium. So given this question, we can now eliminate some of the things, some of the choices here. So kasi sabi niya, dun sa first statement niya, kapag well-drained yung soil mo, ang mga nutrients na deficient includes potassium, calcium, magnesium, and molybdenum. So alin sa mga choices includes itong nutrients na to. So that's one way of thinking about it, di ba? O sa mga choices, calcium. So letter C. So mostly hindi na siguro ito yung sagot. Mapaisip ka. Kasi ang tinatanong natin, deficient nutrients in waterlogged soils. Ito, deficient nutrients to in well-drained soils. So calcium, dahil nandyan yung choice, calcium, hindi na siya kasama. Letter C, hindi na kasama. Letter D, may calcium and magnesium. Yun ay deficient sa well-drained soils. So hindi na rin ito. So you are only left with two choices, A and B. So alin kaya dyan? Now, before answering that, I would like to present muna sa inyo a simple lecture on why are some nutrients deficient in well-drained soil and why are some nutrients deficient in waterlogged soils. So, simulan natin sa well-drained soils. No, kapag well-drained yung lupa mo, ibig sabihin yan, prone siya sa leaching. So, kapag diniligan mo yung lupa, it will wash away some of the nutrients in the soil. And ano yung mga nutrients na nawawash away, na mas mataas yung tendency na mawash away sa lupa na well-drained? Ito yung mga elements na to. Phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and molybdenum. So, naulit yung magnesium. So, itong mga elements na to is basically, madali silang ma-wash out sa lupa, lalo na kapag yung lupa mo is well-drained. So, if your soil is well-drained, these elements, these nutrients, might be deficient because of leaching. Now, kapag naman ang lupa mo is not well-drained or waterlogged or easily flooded, ito naman yung mga elements na nawawala. Boron, zinc, sulfur, tama ba? Yep, sulfur, iron, a component of not Mg necessarily, this is Mo supposedly. So molybdenum, submolybdenum, and copper. Bakit? Bakit nawawala yung mga nutrients na to kapag waterlog yung iyong lupa? Well, because of the absence of oxygen. Okay? Kapag kasi flooded yung lupa mo, wala yung oxygen. And yung oxygen na to, ito sana yung tumutulong para itong mga elements na to will be available to your plant. Now, if your soil is flooded, you have no oxygen, therefore, hindi niya mapaprocess itong mga nutrients na to be available sa iyong mga plants. So, given that, alin ang tama sa ating mga choices? Ang nutrient na deficient sa lowland soil, sa lowland dry soils, or waterlogged or flooded soils is letter B, zinc and sulfur. Ito, di ba? Zinc and sulfur. Question number 4. Which of the following has the highest pH-dependent negative charges? Is it organic matter? Will that be Elite? Letter C, Montmorillonite? Or D, Kaolinite? Ang keyword natin dyan is negative charge. So later, pag-uusapan natin, bakit kailangan ng negative charge? Yung lupa. Right? So alin daw sa mga choices na to ang may mataas na negative charge? Now, we cannot answer that question if we do not understand what cation exchange capacity is. So, narinig nyo na siguro to sa mga lessons sa soil science. Ano ba kasi ang cation exchange capacity? Well, it is the capacity of the soil to hold negative charges. Okay? So, the capacity of the soil to hold negative charges. Kasi sa mga negative charges na yan, dyan dumidikit, basically, dyan dumidikit yung mga cations natin, mga cations, or yung mga positive charge na nutrients na kailangan ng halaman. So, ibig sabihin yan, yung lupa natin, gusto natin, maraming negative charges dyan, kasi doon susuot yung mga positive charge nutrients na kailangan ng halaman. Doon sila didikit, doon sila magbabind. Now, the soil can actually have more negative charges and it can also have less negative charges. Depending on the structure, kung ano yung structure ng soil, and at the same time, depende sa amount ng organic matter. Generally speaking, kapag mataas ang amount ng organic matter sa lupa mo, mas mataas rin yung cation exchange capacity niya. Why? Kasi yung ating organic matter, kasama na dyan yung plant roots, they are producing hydrogen na positive, they are producing much hydrogen na positive doon sa soil para mag-substitute doon sa mga ating cations na nakadikit sa lupa. Kasi the question is, yes, okay. Sige sir. Yung mga positive cations natin, nakadikit nga siya sa lupa. Pero paano siya nagiging available sa halaman, 'di ba? So paano siya nagiging available sa halaman? It's because of the hydrogen ions. Yung plant roots natin, nagpo-produce yan ng hydrogen ions. Kasama na dyan, of course, yung mga different organic material or organism doon sa lupa. Now, kapag nagpo-produce sila ng hydrogen ions, nagkakaroon ng somehow substitution effect. Kung saan si hydrogen, the hydrogen ion will exchange with the cation so that the plant root can absorb the nutrients. So yan yung explanation dyan. So isipin nyo na lang, one of the ways to think about it is, kapag mataas ang organic matter ng lupa, basically, mas marami siyang, what do you call this? Mas marami siyang, or phenolic groups, okay? So that's the term. So mas marami siyang carboxyl and phenolic groups. Kapag mataas ang organic matter ng lupa, mas marami siyang carboxyl and phenolic groups. Na para bang mga chef, okay? Itong carboxyl and phenolic groups na to, para silang mga chef ng lupa. Okay? Now, kapag ang pH ng lupa mataas, itong carboxyl and phenolic groups, they are more likely now to release hydrogen ions doon sa lupa. So, para silang chef, kapag mataas yung pH ng lupa, nagpo-produce ngayon sila ng hydrogen which are positively charged. So, nagre-release sila ng hydrogen which are positively charged. Ngayon, kapag yung soil mo nag-release ng hydrogen that are positively charged, yung pinag-releasean nila, magkakaroon yan ng butas. So, yung butas na yon ay negatively charged. Okay. Now, since negatively charged yan, so every time na kapag mas maraming hydrogen yung pinoproduce, yung nire-release ni carboxyl and phenolic groups mo, mas maraming negative charges yung nagiging presensya, mas nagkakaroon ng mas maraming negative charges yung lupa mo. Therefore, mas mataas ngayon yung capacity niya to hold cation minerals that are needed by your plants. Okay? So that's also one way of thinking about cation exchange capacity in a soil that is rich in organic matter. So tandaan, meron akong pointers dito na kailangan yung tandaan, basic facts. So number 1 is, kapag ang organic matter mataas, ang CEC natin ay pataas rin. Okay? So yan yung isa sa mga yan yung isa sa mga concept na dapat nating maintindihan. Pangalawang concept, yung hydrogen ion is the one that exchanges with the cation para ma-absorb ng roots yung nutrient na nasa lupa. So that's the second concept. The third concept is, kapag mataas yung organic matter sa lupa, yung ating carboxyl and phenolic groups are also producing more hydrogen or releasing more hydrogen. And kapag nag-release sila ng more hydrogen, this equates now to more negative charges in the soil, thereby attracting more cations na dumikit doon sa lupa, making it available for plant use. Okay. Now, sir, paano naman yung mga ibang choices? Kasi we've talked about organic matter. Paano itong mga elite, montmorillonite, and kaolinite? Well, these are clay minerals basically. Clay minerals na mayroon ding cation exchange capacity. Pero yung way nila of having a negative charge, to attract positive charge cations is different from the process of organic matter creating negative charges in soil na na-discuss ko kanina. Mostly, itong mga clay minerals na to, they gain negative charges doon sa soil by the process called isomorphous substitution. Okay? So yung proseso, ang tawag doon, isomorphous substitution. Okay? So basically, basically sa law ng chemistry, if there are two elements, say silicon and magnesium, na magkaiba yung charges, nag-substitute sila, nagpuproduce yan ng net charge difference. So for example, yung silicon natin, which is positive 4, yung charge, and yung magnesium natin na positive 2, kapag nagkaroon ng substitution effect between the two, nagpuproduce yan ng negative 2 na charge difference, and yan yung nagiging charge doon sa lupa. Ito yan yung nagiging negative charge doon sa lupa kung saan dumidikit ngayon yung mga cations. So ito yung CEC or cation exchange capacity ng mga clay-type minerals na nasa choices kanina. So kaolinite, 3 to 15 lang. Elite is 15 to 40, whereas montmorillonite is 80 to 100. So sino yung may mas pinakamataas na cation exchange capacity among the three? That would be montmorillonite, followed by elite, and followed by kaolinite. Now, let's answer the question. Which of the following has the highest pH-dependent negative charge? Nabanggit ko kanina, ang lupa na may mataas na organic matter would result to a high negative charge. So, ang sagot dyan is letter A, organic matter. So, mas mataas yung negative charge na hinuhold, yung cation exchange capacity ng organic matter as compared to these three clay minerals natin. Okay? Let's go on with question number 5, last question. It is one of the examples of carbonates of lime. So, alin kaya dyan ang example ng carbonate of lime? So, let's do process of elimination. Simulan natin dito sa baba. Magnesium hydroxide, yan ba ay isang carbonate of lime? But before that, we need to answer yung question, ano ba kasi ang carbonates? Carbonate of lime means they are compounds that contains carbonates. Ito yung chemical formula ng carbonate and calcium. So yan yung definition ng carbonates of lime. Compounds containing carbonates and calcium. Now, ang magnesium hydroxide, that's choice D. Choice D is a hydroxide of magnesium. So, hindi siya carbonate, siya ay hydroxide, and wala siyang calcium. Siya ay magnesium. Ang magnesium hydroxide is also known as milk of magnesia na mostly ginagamit kapag acidic yung iyong tiyan. Okay. So, choice D is now wrong. Choice C naman. Ang gypsum, yes, may calcium siya, but hindi siya carbonate, it is actually a sulfate. So, it is a sulfate mineral used in making plaster and used as a soil conditioner minsan. So, gypsum is also the wrong answer. How about calcium oxide? Again, yes, may calcium siya, pero hindi siya carbonate. Siya ay oxide. So, it's a compound of calcium and oxygen formed by heating calcium carbonate to a high temperature to drive up yung kanyang carbon dioxide. So, ang calcium oxide ay produced from calcium carbonate. So kapag daw ininit mo yung calcium carbonate, madadrive off yung carbon dioxide, so maaalis yung carbon dioxide, it will now create a calcium oxide. But calcium oxide per se is not a carbonate of lime kasi hindi nga siya carbonate. So calcium carbonate is also the wrong, calcium oxide, is also the wrong answer. How about calcite? Indeed, calcite is the correct answer. It is a mineral made up of calcium carbonate. It is one of the most common forms of carbonates of lime. So to answer our question, the correct answer is letter A, calcite.